So, welcome everybody. I can see quite a few people joined us already. Okay, so I can see Lindsay, Karen, Ellen, Mary, Jacinta, and Lisa, and Liz, and Ruth. I guess we're possibly going to get a couple of people joining us just after 8 o'clock. As always, it will be recorded, and I will share the recording with Dawn, who's going to talk to us tonight, and it will be available in the Learning Zone on my website. So with no further ado, I'm going to hand over to Dawn and let her tell you all about this exciting stuff that I've been hearing about. Okay, off you go, Dawn.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So first of all, big thank you to Julia. I've known Julia for many, many years, but obviously we've not had much for probably 10 years before this.
Sorry, Dawn, I'm going to unmute you. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep, you're off now. Off you go.
Right, so again, just a big thank you to Julia for inviting me to chat to you all this evening. Julia knows me from quite a long time ago, but since then, when I was a BHS instructor, I've moved into lots of different areas and developed more and more skills with both human and equine in the world of sports therapy, psychology, as well as the training and coaching. And we often there's a team that work alongside me as well. We have a clinic based in Saddleworth where we treat both human and equine. And what we found over the last few years is a massive correlation between the psychology, so the emotional health of a rider, and its massive effect that it has on the horse's welfare as well. And also the link between the human emotion and the physical response to that emotion. So one of the things I've specialised in has been working with horses with behavioural issues, behavioural problems and so on. And also really helping to develop riders that lack confidence. I'm just going to turn, I don't know what I'm seeing. There we go. So yeah, really working with riders that have lost their confidence for whatever reason, or maybe never even had confidence in the first place. You know, it might be somebody that enjoys riding but never feels that they're capable or able to exceed to their full expectation, and then they lose their confidence and so on. Or we deal with people that have an issue on competition day when they particularly feel anxious and overwhelmed with the whole aspect of the day. And working firstly with a guy called Mike Dahlstrom that I met a number of years ago. Mike was an osteopath, a doctor in osteopathy, but he also did kinesiology and lots of other things, and he kind of cherry picks the best of the courses as he trains and goes through life with gaining more and more experience, and put together his own course called Chiropractic Medicine. So quite a number of years ago I started looking into that and training with Mike, because as a therapist and a coach we found more and more riders were struggling with horses' performance because of their own emotional issues. So we wanted to explore that a little bit more. It's not a case of the horse just reads your body language. It's a lot more to it than that. So we wanted to look into what is actually happening. So one of the things that we found, that when somebody is suffering with stress or anxiety, and I don't know if any of you have actually experienced that, you'll notice that there's a physical change in your body. So even if, you know, if you're not suffering with a lack of confidence, if you have an experience in life where you're suffering with grief, or you know, at the moment people are becoming more and more anxious because of the situation with the coronavirus, you may experience a physical response to that emotional response. You'll be aware of your heart rate speeding up. You might be aware of your breathing speeding up. You might feel pain in particular the lower back or the shoulders, and areas where stress tends to manifest in the body. And it's not that all this is in your mind. On the contrary, it's real. When you feel these changes, this physiology, when you feel the pain, it is real. It's not just that you've imagined it, but it's because of your thinking and your body's response to that emotion that that's created through your thinking that causes a physical change. So that's the first thing, is learning to deal with that, learning how to control what you think and therefore control the emotion. So for example, doing breathing exercises is one of the techniques that I teach people, how to change what they're thinking about. So you're not worrying about, what if the horse is fresh today? What if the wind spooks my horse? What if he stops at this fence? So forget all the what ifs, because that's not even happened. That's not even real, and it's not true. That's just something that we make up and become anxious about. But trying to teach riders how to stay in the moment and how to keep their experience real rather than this daymare that they get themselves in. So that's the first thing, is just dealing with that. And I know Julia's looking more into different ways of working with psychology, and it's quite an interesting journey when you realize the physical attachment to the psychological emotion that you experience. But this is where it gets really interesting. When a person suffers with any kind of stress or anxiety, or depression, or anything where their body is kind of out of sync with the mind, or the mind is out of sync with the body, what happens is that the muscles then stop working to their full capacity. The nervous system is preoccupied with the emotion that you're feeling, and therefore it doesn't send the whole 100% signal to the body's muscular system. So for example, a rider might come to me, or a person might come to me suffering with anxiety, but they've initially come because they've got lower back pain, or hip pain is a common one. And I will do a series of muscle testing to see whether the muscles in that part of the body are working correctly. And 9 times out of 10, they're not. 9 times out of 10, there is a signal that's not coming through to those muscles. And it doesn't mean that they can't walk or they can't move, but it's operating on about 50% capacity instead of 100% capacity. Once we've tested the muscles, I then go through a series of movements that then reignite that signal from the brain to the muscles. And then we get the muscles working again. Then what I do is I ask the person to then think of something that is causing them stress, or a change in emotion, or creating an anxiety, or something that they're just not happy with. And then we retest the muscles, and 100% of the time those muscles will then switch off, which they find quite scary. So then we have to go through the whole process again, and we do a few techniques, and we switch the muscles on again. So after a while, after a few what's the word I'm looking for? After a few trials of putting them into this state of stress or anxiety and retesting the body's muscles, eventually the muscles stop responding to the stress, and therefore the person will stay strong. But the other interesting thing is, as I go through these different treatments with them, they can no longer actually remember what it was that made them anxious. So it works both ways. It works with the actual psychology, the thinking and the emotion as well. But it also works physically in that it stops the body reacting or overreacting to something that creates the anxiety. So it's a bit like your stress response, your flight and fight signals that we're tapping into. So that's one of the first things, is we work on what is it that worries the rider, what is it that causes the lack of confidence, the insecurity, the anxiety. And the first part is to get you working 100%. Regardless, irrespective of those feelings and thoughts, but also to go a step further and actually get you to a point where you no longer have that anxiety with that situation. So then we started to look a little bit deeper, and what was really interesting is that on some of the camps that I go to, and we do talks and demonstrations, is I will go through this process where I'll muscle test somebody. the muscles will switch on. I then put them in a state of anxiety, and the muscles will switch off, and then we switch them back on again. And that always leaves everybody with the chins open, wondering what on earth has just happened. But to demonstrate just how powerful this is and the effect that this is going to have on your horse's performance, I then get everybody to, or several people I should say, to join hands and create a link to one another. And the person at one end of the chain, I will ask to demonstrate or to think about something that creates the anxiety. And then we'll muscle test the person at the opposite end of the chain, and their muscles will switch off. They'll be at least 50% weaker than what they were at the beginning. So what does that mean? It means basically that we've got an electrical current running from one end of the chain right the way through to the other end of the chain. And that electrical current we call piezoelectric is what is stimulating the muscular activity or the nervous system within the body. I'm sure you'll have all experienced, you can walk in a room, or a certain person will walk in a room, and they can change the atmosphere or the dynamics of the room. So you could have a bunch of people that are quite happy, cheerful, and then somebody comes in that's very anxious, and it upsets the whole chemistry of the room. Now, that's not just about body language. That is actually about the energy that that person gives off. And that can work either way. So the rest of the group that are not feeling anxious could calm the person down that's anxious. Or it can work the opposite way. The anxiety can then create a problem for the rest of the group. We see this all the time with horses. But what happens is, if you have a rider that suffers with anxiety, that is then in contact with their horse, that change in the muscular reaction is going to take place also with the horse. So if you're nervous of jumping, for example, and you're riding your horse towards a fence and you start to feel anxious, it's not just the feeling that's going to cause the problem. It's the change in the electrical current running through your body that is going to weaken your response and your strength, but also it's going to have the same effect on the horse as well. So he no longer can perform to his full capacity. You can't perform to your full capacity. You're then going to have a problem. Once you have a problem, it creates more anxiety, and it's a vicious circle. So we've looked more and more into this, and you know, when people come to us with pain, or we treat horses with pain, it's not always a physical pain caused by an injury. It can be a physical pain that's manifested because of an emotional change, a psychological change, or a weakness that's been created because of a psychological change in both the horse and the rider, which we find quite fascinating. And it never ceases to amaze me the difference that it can make to both the horse and the rider when we look into it. So that's one area that we look into. Obviously, we've then got other things that we work with. So people that have poor posture because they're sat at a desk all day, or driving, long distance driving, that kind of thing. When your posture becomes the norm because you're doing it 7, 8, 9 hours a day, and then you go and ride your horse for the 1 hour, your posture that you have throughout the day is going to be the same posture that you're going to have on the horse. So the horse then is going to feel those changes in the balance and the way that he has to carry you. And again, when we see horses, we go out to test these horses, not just for back pain, but we're testing strength, suppleness, we're testing their coordination, we're testing proprioception, we're testing their reaction to balance and so on. We're testing saddles, we're testing the rider in the saddle, we're testing the rider when they're not on the horse. All of these things give you the whole holistic approach to improving the way the horse and the rider are working together. One of the things that is useful as an exercise for yourself is, if you're working in an arena, get somebody to stand, say, in the corner at letter K, and ride a diagonal line from K straight across the arena to letter C, and get the person behind you to tell you whether or not you're straight, or whether you're sitting to one side, whether you're collapsing your hip or collapsing your shoulder. And it's amazing how many people think they're straight, but they're not, and they're dropping the hip. And because they're dropping the hip, the horse will mirror you exactly, and they will drop the same hip as you. Again, of course, you can argue that can work the other way around. You can have a horse that's had a previous owner that's ridden them one-sided, or horses that do an awful lot of road work where they've got one leg in the canver and one leg higher up, will cause a tilt in the pelvis. Race horses or ex-race horses that have continually worked anti-clockwise around the running tracks, they're always one-sided. So we get a shift in the pelvis and a shift in the way the horse balances, and that will affect the rider. But a lot of the time it's an awareness that the rider needs to have, as opposed to whether it's the horse or the rider, because I can't say to the horse, straighten up, lift your hip up, but we can point that out to the rider, and we can make a difference by adjusting the rider. It's not a case of just saying sit up straight either, because muscle has a memory. So if you've sat that way for quite a long time, and you perhaps sit that way in your chair at home, or you sit that way in the car, then you're going to sit that way on your horse, and you won't even know that you're doing it. So it's not a case of saying stand up straight or sit up straight or stay level. It's about re-educating the muscles and the myofascia that works around the muscles that creates that posture in the first place. So there's a lot more in depth at correcting rider posture and the way that it affects the horses as well. It's not just a case of, we don't just kind of go, yeah, your horse has got a bad back, or your saddle might be at fault, or we'll just do a bit of a massage. It's not as simple as that. We go into quite a lot of depth, and we look at the whole picture, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being, the horse's physical well-being, the horse's emotional well-being. And I was saying to Julia the other day that it's interesting that from my career as working with horses as an instructor, I went down the route of specialised in behavioural issues with horses. So we look very much at the psychology behind it, and then started to work physically at improving the way the horses go. With humans, when I started working as a sports therapist, it was more about the physical workings of the person, and now that's led me further down the garden path, and now we look at the psychology and the emotional health relating to the physical health. So it's like yin and yang, but we've come full circle with both horse and rider. It's changed the way that I teach, it's changed the way that I train. You know, we look more at the rider before they get on the horse. I can come onto a yard and I always watch the rider walk to the horse's stable without them knowing, because that's the thing. If you know I'm watching you, you're going to try your hardest to stand up straight. So we watch you walk to the stable, and then we assess what we see. And 99% of the time, what I see is what I'm going to find on the horse. 99% of the time. Not just because of change of weight distribution, but because of the electrical charge that's coming from you into the horse as well. I mean, everybody will have experienced a static shock at some point in their lives where you go to touch somebody or something and you create a static shock. So we know that our body is working with electricity all the time. There's an energy that's working around the body all the time. So it's not beyond the realms to then think that if you touch another person, then that energy becomes one unit. So it's the same with horses. The energy is not yours separate from the horse. You become, the moment you make contact with that horse, you become one. Hope that makes sense to people. So rather than just going through all the different skills, has anybody got any questions that they want to ask me so far for a bit more clarity on? Because I've talked about quite a few different areas there.
Thanks, Dawn. That's amazing. And, you know, we spoke the other night and I'm absolutely passionate about this stuff. I mean, so much so this currently, as you all probably know, I'm off work with my broken leg, and I'm currently undertaking to do my master NLP practitioner. So if everyone else can just keep quiet so we can talk one at a time, that'd be cool. So I'm completely engrossed in all this stuff, and to find out that Dawn is doing the whole lot, so exciting. So I'll shut up and I'll let people answer questions. So we could go one at a time. Shout out now if you want to ask Dawn a question. Nope.
No, no questions.
No
Okay.
questions. All right. I've got a couple of questions, Dawn. So I'm thinking really selfishly, like I'm off with a broken leg at the moment. And when I get back on my horse, then I'm not going to be the same rider I was the morning before my accident. So I want to be the best rider that I can in the future when I get back on. So I really need to think about that for the sake of my horse as well as me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What if you were one of our clients, Julie, one of the things that, you know, when you heal from a broken leg, there's not a lot of physiotherapy offered to you. They usually take the plaster cast off and tell you to start walking and using the leg as normal, and eventually the muscle will build up and so on. But what happens during that time, whilst you're laid up, you're not going to be, your body is completely and utterly out of balance. And will be like for quite some time. So even when the bone is healed and the cast comes off, your body is still going to have to recover from that. And you've got to realign your spine, you've got to realign your pelvis, you've got to get both limbs working, functioning exactly the same. Because I know you'll be keen to get on the horse, because we all are, aren't we? That's the first question we ask the doctors: when can I ride again? And that's fine. You're not going to do any harm doing that when you're just riding the horse. And in actual fact, it helps your body to recover, because, again, as I said, your muscle has a memory. So once you get on the horse, your body will very quickly remember what it's supposed to do. But if your pelvis is out of alignment and your spine is out of alignment, it can have a knock-on effect, the way that horse is going to balance and the way that he's going to carry you. So you need very specific exercises as a horse rider to make sure that you've got full mobilization through your hips, that you've got the movement through the pelvis, and that your pelvis is level, and that you've not now got left with a leg length discrepancy, which is ability, so that you.
Sorry, Dawn, I'm just going to mute. Okay, there you go. There we go. I've muted everyone else. Off you go.
Making sure that you've not got a leg length discrepancy that is then going to be a continuous problem for you in terms of keeping your pelvis level, because that is going to affect the horse. So that's one area. The other thing is that when anybody's had such a severe accident like that, there is a certain element of confidence, isn't there, that's got to be rebuilt. Not necessarily because if you've fallen off a horse or not, but the fact that that leg, you are now going to be feeling that you've got to protect it, that you're vulnerable. And that again can pass through to the horses and the way that they then perform for you. So again, you know, when we're working with that, we encourage you to sort of maybe make some notes before you ride the horse of the things that you're worried about. What are you concerned about? And then deal with them as you see them, as you write them down. We have other ways of dealing with it, but I might do some eye movement therapy with somebody, or some hypnosis, or whatever I feel is appropriate. Sometimes just a conversation is enough. Sometimes just getting you to write something down is enough for you to look at it and think, I don't need to be worried about this because it's not going to be a problem. Or yes, it is a problem, but now I'm going to have a plan of how I'm going to deal with it. Does that make sense? So
yeah, that makes
kind of a plan. And I would be making those plans now whilst you're healing, and start thinking, you know, what do you think is going to be your concern when that cast comes off, and start to have a plan now of how you're going to deal with that, so it doesn't become an issue for you.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense. And I guess I am in a luxurious position, being a qualified hypnotherapist as well, but hopefully I can do some hypnotherapist on myself, and I know quite a few people, including yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, self-hypnosis, I mean, I became addicted to it once I did my hypnotherapy training, because I couldn't meditate and I couldn't sort of settle down listening to other people. But I found the self-hypnosis worked really well for some reason. It's just a different way of dealing with it. But each person has their own way of dealing with anxiety and stress and lack of confidence, insecurities, and so on. And like I said, sometimes just writing something down is enough for you to take control of it.
Yeah. And I mean, the good old NLP, write it down, screw it up, put it in the bin, you've got rid of it. You know, techniques like that. There's lots of techniques that you can use. So
there are lots of techniques and strategies. I think sometimes people get scared of things like that, and obviously you can't sort of treat every individual the same. And I know when people hear NLP, some think, oh God, I don't want to hear anything about that. Some don't even know what it means, but it's just another way of using models and strategies and different ways of dealing with things. But the way that and I have trained in all of that, but the way that I explain it to people is everything that you feel, every emotion that you feel, whether it's a lack of confidence, a fear, an anxiety, whatever it is, has to come from thinking. So it's your thinking, you're in control of it. And so if you realize that and you change your thinking, I'll give you an example. I was dealing with a lady that would get really anxious. I mean, a horse was a difficult horse. And so, you know, I understood that why she was anxious, but she would be preempting something was going to happen before it had even happened. If it was a windy day, she'd cancel the lesson just because it's windy and it might do something. Well, it hasn't done anything, but it might, and that would be enough to get her anxiety levels up. So I would say to her something like, what is your horse's breathing rate right now? Feel his breathing, feel what he's doing. And that takes you into a whole different world, because if you've ever sat on your horse and actually thought, how fast is he breathing? It's very difficult to recognize it or feel it or experience it unless you are completely relaxed and focused. And you can only be completely relaxed and focused if you're not thinking about something else.
yeah, absolutely.
It's a simple exercise. But I used to just get her to sit still. I'd stand with her if necessary and learn to feel the horse's breathing rate. And then I'd get her to breathe with the horse. And then we'd try it at walk. Or I would get her to develop her own breathing pattern that would work with the horse's footfalls. But what it was doing was making her concentrate on something completely different and stop her worrying about what the horse might or might not do.
Yeah.
What happens then as well, when you become more relaxed and more focused, if the horse does something unexpectedly out of the ordinary, which they do, they're prey animals, you're quicker to respond. And you're more balanced because your body can react quicker. But when you're tense and anxious, the likelihood is A, you're going to get a big reaction from your horse, but B, you're not going to be in a position to respond accordingly. That's been my experience. So yeah, whatever your fears, start to look at what's really happening in that moment that you're with your horse. Whether you're recovering from a broken leg like yourself, or whether it is just anxiety because you've had to leave your comfort zone for that moment.
Yeah, excellent. So you mentioned the good old coronavirus earlier on, and it kind of scuppered everybody's plans in the world at the moment. So my cunning plan was to invite you to a couple of the camps that I'd already got planned for the summer. I'd already booked you for Summerford in September, so those of you that are lucky enough to have already booked on there, it's great news because it's actually full, so I can't even sell you a place if you wanted to go, not at the minute anyway. I'm hoping by September that we will be back in action, but there's no guarantee, there's no promises. But what Dawn and I are going to do is get together and work out how we can weave in all the skills that Dawn has got to bring to our, and I'm not going to say to our camps, because I've started, we have our first retreat planned in May, which is probably not going to go ahead because of CV, and I've got a retreat planned for October, but I am going to be mixing the camps and the retreat so that we look at the whole mind, body, human and equine experience. So I'm going to be talking to Dawn. She's got a fabulous mobile setup that she can come out. If you want to go, I'm going to ask Dawn to share her details in a minute. If you want to go and see Dawn at her place where she's got all these facilities in Denshaw in Saddleworth, I'm sure she'll be delighted to see you there. If it wasn't for the coronavirus, I would be booking myself in for a week, but that will have to wait. And yeah, I mean, I'm just super excited because, you know, I just totally believe in all this stuff, so I don't need any convincing. But if you're sat on the fence thinking, you know, things are not just as good as they could be, and, you know, thinking of different things you can do, the good old saying, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. And I love that one because
the interesting thing, Julia, what I'd like to get across to all your riders as well is, well, two things. It has been said to me before that because of all the skills and all the training and the qualifications that I've got, people say, do you not feel as though you're kind of a jack of all trades because you're doing so many different things? But when you look at something holistically, you have to have all those skills. And I look at them as skills or tools in my toolbox. A master craftsman has many tools. He doesn't just go out with a screwdriver. He's got to have many tools and know how to use them. And there are, you know, I have a team that work with me and they have their own strengths. So we might have somebody that specializes in the strength training or physical rehabilitation of a rider or a horse, or somebody that's more qualified to fit saddles and check saddles or whatever. So I do draw on other people's skills as well, but the skills that I use are to look at the whole holistic picture of horse and rider and how the effect that they have on each other, and making sure that we improve their performance, and the rider's expectation and so on is more reasonable and more real. So that's one of the things that we look at. And the other thing, sadly, often, and I'm sure you've come across the same, we're the last people that they get in touch with. They'll go to all sorts of different people before they'll come to somebody like us, because it's different and they don't understand it. So it's like, when all else is lost, let's go to that person. I think eventually, the more, you know, I go up and down the country, I've been over to Sweden and so on teaching this, and I think the more we get it out there, eventually people will start to realize that it's not witchcraft. it's centuries and centuries of medicine, holistic approach that has been forgotten about. It's not even new. It's just stuff that we've kept under wraps, and we've not had that information. So we look at the military style of training and riding, or the classical training and riding, and that's all we look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, I would love for people to come to us first, rather than, well, I've been everywhere else and everybody else has tried it, and then we come to you.
Yeah,
but that's what happens. I mean, I got that especially an awful lot when I was doing the behavioural issues, horses for loading jobs. I mean, the mind boggles. I was getting people coming to me where they'd had phone conversations. They'd phoned somebody up that was talking to the horse on the phone to try and get the horse in. They'd had all sorts of different Monty Roberts trainers and God knows what come to these horses, and they still can't get the horse in. And then eventually they come to you, and the horse just walks in, and you think, why has it took you this long to realise that there is an alternative that's out there? I don't know. But anyway, let's hope that your riders will gain something from meeting with me at some point, I hope.
Yeah, definitely. It's a little bit like the barefoot journey. I mean, many years ago, probably 20 years ago, I took Jake barefoot because, again, in desperation, it was the only alternative I had left. And now it's a lot more acceptable. There's still people that don't like it, but it is a lot more acceptable. So it will change, and I think the whole psychology, which is a much more accepted terminology. The thing that I picked up on the word there, which I really like, is performance. And what I really like at the moment, that hacking is seen as a performance. You know, we've been so focused for so many years of, oh, do you do dressage, show jumping, or eventing, or cross country? You're only a happy hacker. And the best phrase from my my horsemanship trainer, Sally Gray, is that anyone who hacks has got the most difficult discipline of all. They have got all the unknowns. So you go in a dressage arena, you know exactly what size it is, you know exactly what's there, you know what the fence looks like. You go hacking, you've got all the unknowns. So all of you that are hackers, pat yourself on the back because you are doing the most difficult discipline of all.
Yeah. What I love there, Julia, as well, is you said, you know, we all use that phrase, happy hackers. We never say, are you a happy show jumper? Or are you a happy dressage rider? Because they're not usually. Those two words don't usually go together. But happy hacker, yet you're the one that has to deal with everything that can possibly be thrown at you.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And actually, ironically, they chose the right word because happy, you know, is great. You know?
Yeah. What's wrong with being a happy hacker? It's a discipline within itself. But we're all supposed to be happy riding horses. The amount of people that I teach, and I'll say to them, are you actually enjoying this? Are you? Why do you put yourself through this? Why do you, you know, oh, well, my horse is good at show jumping and so I need to be jumping him. Well, who said? Your horse likes eating grass as well. So who decided that you have to jump it just because it's good at it? And make yourself ill with it. Because you're not doing your horse any justice, are you?
Absolutely. Right. I'm going to switch everybody's speakers back on. So I'll shut up and give everyone a chance. If you have got any questions or comments or anything, request.
I'm going to throw a question out to you guys that are listening in. Just anybody who has actually experienced that lack of confidence when you're competing or going somewhere out of your comfort zone.
I think everybody would have done at some stage, I'm sure.
Everybody, yeah. And how did you deal with that?
Well, I mean, in the past, I suppose differently than I do now. You know, I'm a very different rider now as I was many years ago, and I'd like to think that I'm sort of more calm and confident and pick up the signs from the horse. I think since I have studied some sort of horse psychology, I've just got a greater understanding, and so you know, you do have to work to control your own emotions, because you know that if you let those run, you're going to escalate the situation that you've got. So, you know, I try to be much calmer and breathe and, you know, all those things. I've been sort of doing some yoga and different types of breathing techniques and learning lots of different strategies. As you say, it's, you know, the more tools that you've got in your toolbox, and got to have a very open mind to, you know, all these, well, not alternative, but, you know, the full range of you know, learning that there is these days. So to be honest, I can't remember how I have dealt with it in the past. I just know that I deal with it very differently now. I mean, you tense up, don't you? You tense and you brace, and you know, then you tighten your bottom, and you know, the horse thinks, oh my goodness, what's going on? You know, she's scared, I need to be scared, and you know, the whole thing gets to be a very unpleasant cycle. So it's very different these days, thank goodness.
And so what are your thoughts on what I've said there earlier about, because you're saying there about, you know, your muscles tighten up, the horse senses your anxiety. Do you understand what I'm saying about how the two energies merge?
Absolutely, yeah.
That makes sense. So
absolutely.
Picking up, it's not just about picking up the anxiety, is it? It's
no.
A sense.
And I was really interested in what you were saying about the breathing, because you know, sometimes I just stand by my horse and breathe, and then after you know, a few minutes, we are breathing as one. I don't know who's adjusted their breathing to the other, but you're just breathing as a whole. And you know, and so no, I'm absolutely, you know,
and you know, you can have fun with that, because if you've already had a go at that, and you're absolutely right, who's following who, but you can have fun with that. And I get my riders to now slowly breathing down, now speed it up, and watch what happens. And the horses react 100% every time. You can slow it down again. So it's a really interesting experience and a skill. Breathing is a skill. You know, we breathe without thinking. Your unconscious mind tells you to breathe, and when your unconscious mind says breathe faster, there's red alert, and you go, no, actually, I'm going to breathe slower. It really doesn't like it. It's almost like you have a conflict for a moment. Have you ever experienced that? You're desperately trying to say, slow your breathing down, and your unconscious mind's battling to make you pant.
Yes, that's right. It's saying, no, there's danger, get on, come on, we need to get some adrenaline going here.
Yeah.
But no, it's absolutely fascinating, and I love just sort of standing by the horse, because we're human beings, and we do for them more than we need to. We need to be a being rather than a doer. And actually just standing at peace next to your horse is one of the most rewarding things that I think you can do. Just watching them, when you first start, they might have their head up to start with, and then they gradually relax and drop their head down, and just seeing that sort of any tension pass from the horse. I think it's a privilege. I think it's an honor to be part of that, really.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's brilliant. So anybody else comment on that, on remembering a time where you were different to how you are now, that you've actually overcome your fear or your confidence, or still feel anxiety at certain times?
Well, I would just add that I think, yes, I'm sure we've all felt that at times and will feel it in the future. I teach a lot. I've seen the difference confidence and anxiety makes to people.
Yeah.
And how definitely that is one of the biggest things they have to overcome to be able to ride well, in inverted commas. And even something as simple as you were saying, a breathing exercise to breathe slower, breathe.
Oh, Helen, are you an instructor? Is that what you say? You teach?
Yes, yeah, I teach a lot.
You
do sort of
this all the time, won't you? Where your riders lack confidence. I haven't got the confidence to do this, like you're saying. You see the anxiety.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you feel, or have you come across this before, where I'm saying it's more than the feeling; it's actually going to have a physical effect?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I'm a Ride With Your Mind accredited coach, so I work a lot with posture, and definitely horses mirror our posture.
Yeah.
So yes, you have to work with posture, but if the initial, the riders on the horse, and they haven't got the brain space to deal with their posture, because say the horse is running off with them, or they're in the open and they want to be in an arena, and you have to deal with their confidence issues first.
And you'll see their posture changes with their emotion, won't you?
Yeah, definitely.
So if they're
absolutely
feeling confident and happy, they sit different to if they're stressed
and certainly I've felt that in my body. And knowing that is going to happen, and being able to do whatever, use whatever strategies or talk myself through it. So I'm still aware it's there, but I'm not necessarily having it be such a big physical manifestation.
One of the things, I had a guy, a trainer, when I used to do all the camps at Somerford, Ian Holden, who was an event rider, bless him, he died.
Oh yeah, he got killed, didn't he?
Yeah, he got killed 2 weeks before he was due to come and teach at camp with me again, sadly. But me and Ian had a conversation, because the camp that we were both teaching on, nearly all the riders had confidence issues.
Yeah.
And Ian represented Ireland at the Olympics, and he said, these people come out and keep telling me they've got no confidence, they've lost their confidence. He said, do they think I've just got my big brave pants on every single day? They think I ride to a fence and it doesn't worry me.
Yeah.
And
it does worry him, but he's learnt strategies to deal with it.
Yeah. What I've learned years on, Helen, from that is, and what I explain to people is that the way the emotion works, it doesn't recognise the difference between going on the big river at Blackpool and enjoying it, that feeling of anxiety, and the feeling of say jumping a fence or fear of heights. The feeling is the same, but the way your brain interprets it tells you it's right or it's wrong. So you might dig deeper and love that feeling of anxiety, but then you'll have the same feeling and interpret that as a bad
feeling.
Your bad feeling,
Bad feeling.
It's the same feeling. It's just your interpretation of that feeling, isn't it?
EQUESTRIAN.
Yeah, and you kind of can train yourself to kind of get used to it. But part of the feeling is, I might be worried, but it's an okay feeling, because
face the fear and face it anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
thing there. Yeah, and
Great.
not be frightened of that feeling.
Super. Any more questions for Dawn?
Am I linked in at the moment?
Yes, Mary, is that Mary? Can hear?
It is, yes.
Hi, Mary.
I'm new to this system, so it's a bit strange. I just want to say that I had the most incredible experience of a horse linking into your emotions when I lost a close friend, and I heard about it just before I went to catch my horse. And who normally I just walk up to and we walk in, and he would not come near me. He actually registered that there was something wrong with me, and he could not cope with those emotions. And or he wouldn't run away from me. He stayed within about 10 meters of me, but he wouldn't come near me, but he wouldn't go away. He was just concerned, is the only thing you could say, but didn't understand the emotions at all. Totally confused.
All the way down.
So, you know,
because he wouldn't have had the sense of what was going through your mind, was he? He's dealing with the here and the now, the reality around him.
yes,
So he wouldn't understand
yes.
why are you different today? What can you see that I can't see?
But he felt a difference.
Absolutely, yeah.
He felt a
horses are
difference.
amazing creatures at teaching us about staying in the moment, aren't they?
Definitely.
Yeah, I know he actually links into my thoughts.
Yeah, without question, Mary. I have
Yeah.
2 horses, a father and son, and the older horse, Quantum, he's been my mentor. He's 26 this year, and he has just taught me so much about working with horses. I can't even begin to tell you. And he's like your horse. If I when I was going through some bad times, he'd be, don't come near me, don't come in my stable, I don't want you anywhere near me. And my other horse, Woodstock, who's his son, was the complete opposite. He would be practically grabbing you by the jacket and pulling you in.
Mhm.
And when you watch them interact within the herd, they're very much like that. Quantum, the older one, was a stallion, so he's very alert all the time. Whereas the other one is much more settled, much more grounded. And when he was a foal, we imprinted him at birth. And so he has a completely different attitude to human emotion to what my other horse has. So I've experienced 2 completely different reactions to the same emotion, but the same as what you're suggesting there. Fascinating.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, so that has been fascinating for me, and I'm sure it has for you. So Dawn, do you want to share some information about how people can contact you? And I will send it out to my my distribution list, my
Yeah.
Facebook
The
and
best way
website.
at the moment is via Facebook. We're changing the websites because it got hacked apparently. I'm not a techie person at all. So I've got 3 wonderful daughters that are, and they're trying to sort out websites and get those rebuilt and sorted out. But the best way is through Facebook. So we have 3 different pages. You can contact me directly, Dawn Rothwell, or we have the Penine Therapy Group, which is more about the whole sort of umbrella of what we do, and more on the human side. So that's one of our Facebook pages. We also have, we've just done the Penine Equine Services, Penine Equestrian Services. They've just put that page up. And we've also got Equestrian Sports Therapy. So we've got the 3 pages. You can contact me directly on email at peninetherapy@gmail.com. Or you can contact me via phone. I'll send you all that info, and you could perhaps send it out, Julia. It's
We'll do.
rather than give you my number now
Yeah.
online. We're based in Denshaw, but we do have a mobile unit. So we do, like I say, I'm going down to Essex, well, supposed to be going down to Essex in a couple of weeks. We can take the mobile unit anywhere with us, so that we've got somewhere where we can treat the riders as well as the horses. We can do as many horses as you want, turn out as many people as you want, or they can come to us. We're currently having a new arena reconstructed, and we're going to be having some new stables in the next 12 months. All that is happening, so we'll have different facilities. But we can come out. We do individual horse rider assessments. I teach dressage. I work with confidence issues and so on. So you can have a one-to-one session, or you can book in and have a treatment yourself. Yeah, we cover all sorts. So the best thing is to just look on one of our pages, look at me directly, or I'll send you the contact details, and then get in touch and tell us what it is that you need us to help you with, basically, and then we'll point in the right direction.
Do you have any accommodation at yours, Dawn, or any bed and breakfast nearby if people travel?
Yeah, there's loads. If you want to come and stay, there's loads of B&Bs nearby. We at the moment we can't take horses in, but we will be in the next sort of few months, hopefully. Again, unfortunately, the builders have all gone on strike at the minute, but in the next few months we should be having new stables and new arena, so that you can basically bring your horse, bring yourself, stay at a local B&B, literally within walking distance of where I am. And then you've got full access to us. We do holiday liveries. We do livery where the horse can come and stay for a week, 2 weeks, where it has a bit like sending your horse to a spa. So we do a full assessment. He gets any treatment that they need, any training that they need. It's all available. We basically cover just about everything you can think about.
Yeah. Fabulous. Okay.
But yeah, we understand as well, you know, we don't like taking our horses anywhere. As a horse owner, you always think that, you know, your horse is with places with you, don't you? So we understand that. So we are happy to come out to people as well on a regular basis. And if we have to come and see you quite often, we work out a price that's affordable so that you've got maximum access to us as well. But yeah, I mean, like when we go down to Essex, I'll do sort of 2 or 3 days work on 2 different yards while we're down there, and we do both the horse and the riders. So that kind of thing we can do all over the country. It's not a problem.
Okay, fabulous. I mean, I can certainly, as I say, Dawn and I go back, is it 20 or 30 years, I dread to think.
Yeah, say it quickly, Julia.
Yeah, certainly before the horse, before I had Jake, and before that, so it's quite a while. So
yeah, well, it'd be when you were friends, wouldn't it? So
yeah,
we're actually going back almost 40 years when I was teaching.
No, quiet, that's enough. So first of all, I would trust, you know, what I'm saying, and the great thing about me, about knowing Dawn, is I would trust her with my horse to look after it, to do any therapy, and kind of highly recommend, because I know, you know, I've known her a long time, even though we've not seen each other for a while. He used to come up to your place and ride.
The horses get better care than the people. It's the people that should worry. The horses are absolutely fine.
Yeah. Okay, that's been fantastic. I've absolutely loved it. So I will do what I need to do with the recording. I am gonna it'll get chopped at the beginning of the end. And I think I will only be sharing the recording because at the moment it's been flashing up names as people talk. I don't mind my name, but it's flashing up people's names who've asked questions, and it does go on to my YouTube channel and onto Facebook, and it's kind of a bit personal. So as long as if anybody's got an objection about a voice recording being shared, then let me know. But I'm going to hold back with the video recording because of kind of security, I guess, for want of a better description. And I'll share it with you, Dawn, so if you want to share it anywhere, then
that'd be brilliant. Like I said, the more people know what is available and what's out there, the better. I mean, if anybody listening wants to just literally ring me and have a chat about their experience, or just to see how we can help in any way, feel free to give us a chat. It doesn't cost you anything to do that, and you never know, we might just give you a little bit of inspiration.
And I guess finally, I had planned to talk to Dawn about a date to get something together, but everything's been put on hold. But I am looking at getting Dawn to come to either North Shropshire or North Wales, 2 venues where I know there's a lot of my clients are close by and are great venues for kind of the whole holistic approach. So keep your eye on my website, sign up for my newsletter, and you'll be the first to know about anything once we start riding and going out again. So Okay, so thank you very much, Dawn. Thank you for everyone for
Thank
attending.
you for inviting me. I look forward to seeing you all at some point.
Yeah, definitely.